Imagine not being able to read the paper because your hands were shaking. Imagine not being able to read newsprint as your world faded to black. The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. With your host, Lee Martin, and co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine.
Good morning and welcome to this week's National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. I'm your co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine, here with your host, Mr. Lee Martin, and a very interesting guest today, Ms. Suzanne Turner from Cleveland, Ohio. And Lee, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing just fantastic. Once again, we're all blessed and thankful to be here to project to our viewing and listening audience. As you indicated, we do have a very special guest today. And let's get to that guest, Ms. Suzanne Turner.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. I am so happy to be here today. I watched the show often and just privileged to be here and to be alive.
Well, I'll tell you, it is our pleasure to have you here. So today we're going to start off again. We're going to start off talking about the service of the National Federation of the Blind, one of the many services that we have. And this is the NFB Newsline. And I know you're an avid user. So kind of share with us what is popular with you with the NFB Newsline and why you use it.
Well, there's a couple of things about Newsline I like, especially to referring people to the program itself and the services that it provides. But I use listen to the New York Times. I also like to get the weather because you can get the weather information from there. Another thing I like is they have job listings that before I found my job that I have now, just sourcing, looking to see what's available. But most of all, the TV guide helps me to find out what's on TV and what I want to see, what time it is, and the location of the channel that the program has. But like I said, the important thing that I found about Newsline is introducing it to those who are newly blind. I worked for an insurance company at one time and provided that resource to members that wanted to still continue to read. And so this gave them the opportunity to read any magazine across the country that they so fit, but also just them understanding that they can stay literate by using Newsline.
Well, Florence, I know there's people that are viewing this maybe for the first time, and they're wondering, how do the blind read the newspapers? Can you kind of expound on that?
I certainly would love to expound on that. Now, for people who are blind, print challenged, we access NFB Newsline in various ways. For instance, I use my iPhone, and let me explain first that it is a free audio information service for the blind, visually impaired, and print challenged. And so I use my iPhone, and because I use my iPhone, I use an app, and it gives me access to newspapers, magazines, TV guide listings, such as what Suzanne had just mentioned, as well as other pertinent information. I also can access it using my A-Lady, the Alexa, and the digital player from the Talking Book and Braille Library. We access it using the Victor Reader Stream, as well as our computer. And some people still use the home landline.
And one other feature that I really like, if there is an article that you're reading and you say, dang, I want to save this article. I really wish I could save it. And students use this a lot. They can save the article from the device that they're using straight to their inbox, and they can have that permanently. A lot of seniors, they like to read the obituaries. and they love to also save those obituaries. So, there's so much more to this service. We just want you to take the time and follow the information on our commercials and get with us, and we can get with you. So we're going to take a short pause, and we'll be right back with the National Federation of the Blind Indiana Newsline Show.
I just graduated college as a blind student. How can I independently find job listings?
Thanks to the National Federation of the Blind, visually impaired Hoosiers can hear newspapers, circulars, and magazines from across the globe.
It is a fantastic service.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
Welcome back to this segment of the National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana. As mentioned, we have Miss Suzanne Turner from Cleveland, Ohio, as our guest today. And again, Susan, thank you so much for being our guest.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, Suzanne, tell us a little bit about you.
Let's see. Well, I was born in Brooklyn, New York. I was raised in Mississippi, and now I reside in Ohio. One of the key things about me, wherever I live, I take on that dialect. If I'm in the South, I take on a Southern dialect. If I'm in Maryland, I take on that dialect. I am the oldest of 4 siblings. I'm the only one with a disability. I have a hereditary mutation disorder, the same as Abraham Lincoln. And for years and years during my physicals, they told me that I had this disorder like Abraham Lincoln. I was born visually impaired, but lost most of my vision about 16 years ago. I have glaucoma, but when I was younger, I had dislocated lenses. And so I developed glaucoma because of the surgeries, the scar tissue, and now it's totally blind. I have adopted 2 girls, and I'm a proud grandma of 3. My oldest grandson, he will be 11 this year, and I cannot believe it. And then I have a 10-year-old granddaughter and an 8-year-old granddaughter who kind of is taking after my footsteps. She's a dancer. When I was younger, I was a cheerleader and a dancer. Loved it. And so now she's taken on that. So I'm following her like I did my oldest adopted daughter, who also was a cheerleader. So sports is something that's in our DNA. Basketball, I have nieces and nephews who played basketball, sisters who played basketball. So we're a sport family. Love the Cleveland Browns and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Currently, I work for the Department of Defense with our military members who are retirees or active members, also their former spouses and annuitants. Love it to death because it gives me an opportunity to give back to those who have protected us and kept us safe abroad and here. And I was a claims representative at the Social Security Administration adjudicating claims. And so now I'm giving back to the community by sitting on several boards in my area, but I'm most proud of being the disability officer under our Democratic Party Disability Caucus in Ohio. And so I'm pretty busy, but I'm doing what I want to do, what I love to do now. And I have no pressure, which is a blessing. And so that's a little bit about me.
That is such a detailed description. And, I really tell you, Florence, that's quite a description there. And let's see, I'm saying, well, where do we start? Okay. So, I don't know which dialect I'm speaking with right now. Is the one from New York? Is it the one from Mississippi or the one from Cleveland? So have you manufactured where you just put them all in one and you just start talking?
Yeah, sometimes people say I have that Southern draw, and then some people say I don't. So it just depends on where I am and whom I'm talking to at the time. But I take on the dialect. It is so funny. When I'm in the South, it just get back into that Southern speech. And then when I'm in Maryland or DC or California, I take on the dialect. I think because I was so young moving around. I left New York when I was 10, and was thrust into living in the South. Incidentally, I was raised on a farm with chickens and goats and horses and picking cucumbers and watermelon and stuff like that, which we had it good and we didn't even know it because vegetables and fruit were very plentiful, in the South for us. And we never got sick. And so that was a blessing too. I was raised by a grandmother who believed in vegetarian food and fruits and nuts and things like that. So I don't know. I don't know what you're hearing this morning. As long as I'm clear, I guess that's the important part.
Wow. And we did tell the guests that she was very interesting, and you are. You are. Now, you had also mentioned a couple other things about passions. As far as with literacy and adult learning, and you had mentioned that to us before. And
Yeah. So adult learning and adult education is a passion of mine. I've worked at a nonprofit for persons with disabilities and in the employment department. I was a benefit counselor and an employment specialist at the time, helping those who are disabled find jobs, maintain jobs, and then giving them counseling to make sure it was advantageous for them to work, because there are some pensions that you receive that if you work, you'll lose it. And so I was doing benefit counseling, and the employment specialists were having difficulties helping the clients find employment. And so we would meet every Monday and talk about situations. And so as they were talking about assessments, because now when you apply for a job, every job requires you to take an assessment, and the clients were not passing these assessments. And so I started asking questions to the employment specialists and other departments, and determined that a lot of the clients were illiterate. They were illiterate before they became blind or disabled. And so if they were illiterate before, they're going to be illiterate after. And so partnered with our community college here in Ohio, we call it Tri-C, but it's Cuyahoga Community College. They had an adult learning program. And so I facilitated getting that up off the ground at the Cleveland Site Center here in Cleveland. And so now they have an adult learning program. If you want to brush up on your remedial spelling or mathematics or whatever the case may be, or even if you want to get your GED, you never graduated. So that program is still going on today.
Well, you also had you basically started the career fair for the National Federation of the Blind. You want to talk about that?
So when I came into the National Federation of the Blind, I started moving fast with networking. And so found out that there was an employment committee and wanted to be a part of that because, again, me being a benefit counselor and working in employment, my passion is helping persons with disabilities find employment, especially those who have low vision or totally blind. And so when I met Dick Davis, who is the chairperson of the committee for the National Federation of the Blind, I asked him about a career fair. And he was much interested and told me that if I could pull it off, I could go ahead and bring it to fruition. And so I did contact some employers from around the country. The first career fair we had about 9 employers. Then the next year we had about 20. And last year, I think we had about 50. And so this year, because it was virtual this year, I think we had about 40 to 50 again. So it was a pleasure, and it was an opportunity for me to give back again. That's what I'm all about, is giving back to the community of of a little what I've received. And so when we're at the career fair, the employers give on-the-spot interviews. They take your resume, they give you tips. Some people have been hired by the employers, and the employers are really loving it, and they're constantly coming back. And so hopefully next year we'll be face-to-face in New Orleans, and we'll have even a bigger employment opportunity for our members.
Well, that is that is such great work. And we're going to have to take a short pause and come right back. And when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about employment for the blind and people with disabilities, the high percentage of unfairness in the workforce. So we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
As I travel the nation, I read NFB Newsline.
I live in Valparaiso, Indiana, and I listen to my local news on NFB Newsline.
As a student, I enjoy reading current events on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today.
I'm Danny Wayne Beamer, Program Manager of the Elder Blind Program at the Will Center in Terre Haute, Indiana. I introduce the NFB Newsline to seniors in 13 southwestern counties in Indiana. I also utilize the NFB Newsline for my radio station public affairs shows. The NFB Newsline. Experience it today.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
Welcome back to this segment of the National Federation of the Blind, and I'm going to continue on with Ms. Turner. And Suzanne, what exactly ignites that passion that you have for employment for the community?
Well, employment is kind of embedded in my soul, so to speak. I was and I called it a victim of something that is still going on today. And that is Section 14C, where nonprofits or businesses can get a certificate from the government to pay persons with disabilities less than the minimum wage. So back in 1983, working at a shelter workshop where they employ 75% of people who are disabled and 25 who are non-disabled, they were paying us less than a minimum wage. The minimum wage was $3.35 at the time, and they were paying us $1.99, which again still is going on today, where we're really trying to, the National Federation of the Blind and other persons with disability agencies are trying to get this removed, because there are competent workers like me, myself, you, Lee, you, Florence, who are very capable and competent in working above the minimum wage. And so this is a barrier for persons with disabilities, some make even less than 4 cents a day. And that is true today. So if anyone is interested in reading about Section 14C under the Fair Labor Standard Act, go to the website and read about it. It is still going on today, and people are being disenfranchised.
So that website, once again, is the nfb.org that you can go to. And we also are having our congressman that would sign on to a bill to help eliminate that. So we're working feverishly, our national office, working really hard to try to make sure that these laws get changed so that we can have fair wages. It is really a shame. Mm-hmm. So you talk about, I'm a veteran, and you say you're working with the Department of Defense.
Yes.
So tell us veterans just what you do there and how we can benefit from that.
Well, I am the individual who works for DFAS, which is Department of Finance Accounting Services. So Our vets and survivors of veterans, as well as children of veterans and former spouses, can call me in order to get into their portal on the website to see their benefits, to change their addresses, their direct deposit, and respond to any correspondences that they receive by email. So it is a pleasure to help them, walk them through. They're very appreciative of the service. And also sometimes it's difficult for them to understand exactly how to navigate. So not only do we provide services to help them get onto the portal, we also refer them to others who can assist them just by, speaking, communicating with them over the telephone. So the veterans, like I said, it's a pleasure for me to work with them because they're so appreciative and they have served our country well. And one of the other things that I like about being with the Department of Defense is some of my veterans are now disabled. Some of them are losing vision. And so providing them with tools like Newsline, telling them about that they can continue to read when they say they can't see any longer, being able to be a referral and provide them community resources is a bonus for me to be able to give that to them.
Well, I like Stars and Stripes, and I know many of the veterans that I introduced that to, they enjoy it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, Florence, you were a mom, and still a mom, and still were a mom. You are a mom. And Suzanne, you're a mom. Mm-hmm. So you two share a little bit about being a mom and being visually impaired or blind.
I'll let you go first, Florence.
Well, now I've been a mom for many years, and I was very I was shocked because I was not aware that you had adult children and that you were a grandparent, that you're a grandparent. And so I'm more interested in your journey. And when did you decide to adopt? And tell us a little bit about that.
So I got married, and my husband and I decided to adopt a child who was visually impaired to give them the same opportunities that we had. And so the youngest one is visually impaired, and she had a sister. And so we did not want to break them up, and so we took them both. The oldest one changed her name to Tatiana, so we call her Tatiana. She wanted to change her name. The youngest one did not change her name, but she added my name as the middle name. So her name is Danielle Suzanne now. And my oldest daughter has 2 kids, and then my youngest daughter has 1. And so the greatest thing about that is being visually impaired. I had no obstacles that was in my way to adopt. We do know that some visually impaired and blind parents are finding difficulty to adopt or parent or become a guardian, or even be able to raise their own children productively in society. And so there is a law that we're trying to pass in Ohio, as I understand that Indiana has already passed. It's called the Parental Rights Bill. And what this does is prevent social workers, ex-spouses. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, we did pass that in Indiana. And there's SB 0259 that our governor, Eric Holcomb, signed this year for parents with disabilities. And that we did a lot of work here in Indiana to get that passed. Almost anything in Indiana takes a lot of work to get passed. Mm-hmm. But we did get that passed this year, and we're so thankful. There's a lot of work to be done on that yet, but we're still working feverishly with that. So we're going to take a short break here, and we're going to come back with the conclusion of our show with Ms. Suzanne Turner, Cleveland, Ohio.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
I am a CFP practitioner, and I happen to be blind. I rely on NFB Newsline to keep me current with Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times.
Hoosiers can hear Indiana magazines, circulars, national magazines, and information from across the globe. Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise the expectations of blind people because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back.
Welcome back to the conclusion of our show. And Suzanne, would you please lead a message or a word for our viewing audience today?
Well, what I would say to individuals is that the National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristics that defines you or your future. And we do raise the expectation of blind people each and every day. It's not easy sometimes, but there are over 500,000 people under this umbrella of the National Federation of the Blind. We have many committees, divisions, and anything that you're interested in, we can support. But most of all, if you're new to blindness, you're not alone. We are here for you. At one time, we became blind and became newly blind. And so now we're in this big family. And so if you are a parent, a spouse, a grandparent, and has a person who is blind or losing vision, or yourself, reach out to the National Federation of the Blind of Indiana or the National Federation of the Blind National Office, and we can support you. And we do everything with love, hope, and with care. And so just reach out to us and we will be there for you.
Well, Suzanne and Florence, so we just had a great show today. And I just want to thank our viewing and listening audience for joining us today. And as you can see, Ms. Suzanne Turner has a lot going on and will continue to have a lot going on as she has aspirations to get into the political field.
Oh, yeah.
So we just wanted to say, hey, good luck with all of that. And we look forward to having you back here in the near future and sharing some more great information with us. Thank you, viewing and listening audience. We'll be back next week and stay tuned then. And we appreciate you all. God bless.
Thank you for everything as well.
All right.
The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. For more information, go to nfb-in.org or call 855-963-6476. That's 855-963-6476. The National Federation of the Blind encourages you to live the life you want.